Hi there YouTube. I'm going to do a video about how to control a Sunsynk inverter from Solar Assistant or Home Assistant. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's been a lot of problems recently with the Sunsynk software, and it's getting asked a lot on the forums about how to set this up. So I thought I'd do a quick video run through. Might be some more videos that I do on the back of this, but this will be the general overview video. So we'll try and explain what the Sunsynk is, how the different bits work, and how they interoperate, and how they connect, to give you an idea of how this setup works. So one of the things that I like to do is draw diagrams. So let's draw the Sunsynk to begin with. I think the Sunsynk is basically split up into two halves, and over one side we have the electrical components. So we have some PV, we have some DC, and we have some AC. Right, and off the DC, there's clearly the batteries. Off the AC would be the load, and the PV is the solar panels. That's kind of one half. And for my money, the Sunsynk seems pretty good at this stuff. It seems pretty solid. What we have on the other side is some control circuitry, right, which manages all the electronic stuff. And this seems to be pretty standard across a whole range of inverters. What they do on the Sunsynk is they have an output port, which is where you connect your dongle. So we have a dongle, and the dongle is connected via a serial port, which is something known as an RS232 port. Very, very standard, been used for 30 or 40 years. There's nothing wrong with an RS232. It's a 9-pin plug adapter. You've seen them around before. That's where the dongle plugs in. The dongle is talking a protocol across to the control circuitry, and the other side it talks Wi-Fi across to your router. Once it's got to your router is clearly connected to the internet. And on the internet, there's some Sunsynk servers somewhere, and the dongle is talking directly to the Sunsynk servers. So something like this. So it talks directly to the Sunsynk servers. The Sunsynk servers are processing your requests via the website, via the app, and talking to the dongle to make things happen. So that's one way of connecting to the Sunsynk, but they give you another way, which is something called an RS485 port. Now, while the RS232 is a standard adapter that you'll have seen many times before, the RS485 is a little bit different. It's just wires, and the way they present it in the Sunsynk is via an RJ45 plug. So you have an RJ45 plug. We'll come on to that in a minute. So you plug in your RJ45, and that's how you talk to RS485. But you need something to interpret that RS485, just like the dongle. Okay. The thing you interpret it with is a USB. Right. There's a USB controller. So you have a USB controller that's capable of talking RS485, and it does so into the RJ45 port. On the other side of the USB, we need something to control that USB. That could be Home Assistant, it could be Solar Assistant. I'm going to draw it initially as Solar Assistant. Okay, so you have Solar Assistant running on something. The Solar Assistant can run on, and they recommend many different types of single board computer, but the Pi is clearly a front runner. So you have a Pi plugged in with a USB into an RJ45 that runs RS485 over the top of it. Then you can access that Pi, the Solar Assistant, can talk to your router, just the same as the above, and clearly can then talk to the internet. Okay, so how does Home Assistant fit into this? What we can do with Home Assistant is a lot more than Solar Assistant. Solar Assistant has it does this connectivity across to the inverter very well, but it doesn't have much smarts. It's not a very smart system. Home Assistant is far smarter. It's been around a lot longer. It's got a massive community building it and making it work. There's so many add-ons for it. I'll do videos on the add-ons another day. But there's a lot of capability you can get out of Home Assistant. And the beauty of this is you can get Home Assistant talking. So if you have a Home Assistant set up, you can have Home Assistant talking to Solar Assistant over something called MQTT. Okay, and again, that's a really easy thing to set up. So these cable bits, we've got an online shop here for Solar Assistant. And the online shop is really helpful. Really, really helpful. They give you all kinds of advice. There's articles on here. But essentially, if you want to buy the inverter cable, you can buy the inverter cable from here, and here it is. That's the inverter cable, but you can also make it. Okay, so if we go back to there, what you're looking for is one of these. So in the UK, you can use a sorry, it's not quite what I wanted to show you. This one is if you didn't want to put the dongle in, if you don't want to have the dongle in, and you don't want to do any cabling, you can actually use this instead of the RS485. And this will talk to instead of the dongle, this will allow Solar Assistant to take over from the dongle completely. So there's no wiring involved in this. You can just use this and it will talk to the inverter. If you want to have the dongle and something else talking to it at the same time, which you can definitely do, it's the next one down. It's this one. And as you see, it's got bare wires on the end. So you've either got to solder it or you've got to crimp it somehow to make it work. I think that's hard. These are big cables. They're not like cables that you would normally put into an RJ45 connector. So what I did and what I would recommend people do is use a keystone. Use a keystone connector. So these things, plenty of them around. They're toolless. I'll do another video one day on how to actually put one of these on. But essentially, these things are they enable you to just use the cable, put the cable in the right place, and then snap it together, and it works. And that's what I've done. From there, you then just use a standard RJ45 Ethernet cable to connect between the solar inverter and the USB stick, USB converter. Okay. I'll put those links in the description. I hope that's explained it for the first video. I will do further videos on each of these components.